Good evening, everybody. Hello, and welcome back to TTC, the Premier Tier. Premier Tier, that is, yeah, well, that is the way to call it, actually, yeah, ignore me. But we are back after a 1 week break. We are back for the second part of 3 parts to this exciting season. 5 rounds in, 10 rounds to go, and here we are ready and waiting as we wait for the drivers to come in for the latest round, which is here at the Circuit de Catalunya here in Spain. It is myself, Mr. Bobbert, in the box tonight, and unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever way you want to put it, I am on my own tonight. There's no Joseph. He is busy watching the darts. Yeah, fair enough. If you want to go watch the darts, you go and watch the darts. But either way, here as we wait for the remaining 2 drivers to join the lobby, I thought we'd actually start on time for once without actually having to wait for anybody. And I thought we'll at least go through the standings whilst we wait. So obviously after the first 5 rounds of the season, which has been a hectic one to say the least, it is Shazoo Cedar Igniters who do lead the way with a total of 196 points after the first 5 rounds, 22 points clear of Ventari. These two have been going at it hammer and tongue between the pair of them. For these first 5 races, and have got themselves a bit of a gap over FRT, who currently sit in third quite comfortably, but they are a further 48 points back from Ventari. Then we have IRT in P4 after what was a disappointing Singapore for them last time out. They actually dropped to P4 behind FRT. Then you have TRT in P5, followed by ERT, Legacy Racing, All Elite Racing Team, TF10, and then Bravo Racing Club, who have been so unfortunate throughout the start of this season. Actually, we're on minus points after the first 3 rounds, but at least are now into positive digits, which is at least something, rather than not actually staying on those minus points. But as we just wait for the final driver to eventually join us, which is the last Bravo Racing Club driver as it is to join in, and we can get this get round 6 underway here at the Circuit de Catalunya. And well, here we are in the heart of Spain, up in the northeast. What a track this is. Obviously we've had legendary and very awe-inspiring incidents happen and overtakes him over the years. Obviously, those who remember Hamilton and Rosberg from God knows how many years ago that is now. I think it was back in 2016 now, so 9 years ago that happened. You then had obviously, even more, much older than that. You had Senna versus Mansell, McLaren versus Williams. That was, the side-by-side action down the front straight. And let's not forget the very dominant wet weather maestro that was Mr. Michael Schumacher in that 1997 Ferrari, winning in what was a soaking wet race, just showing the whole world what can be done in these wet weather conditions. But let's see what these 20 drivers can bring for us tonight. We are still waiting for that final BRC driver. Good evening to you, Mr. Adam, in the chat there. I'm doing okay, buddy. Thank you. And getting ready to what's the word I'm trying to think of? Switch off a little bit in terms of racing aspect. Obviously, those who have seen will know exactly what I'm on about. But yeah, we'll we'll talk about that another day. Here we're going to talk about TTC, and well, as we're not going to be waiting for the final driver. We're going to get ourselves going and get into this short 18-minute qualifying session. Can't wait for this one. Obviously, it's been a nice little break. I won't lie. Doing it every single week, or even doing it for other leagues as well, can sometimes be a little strenuous. But either way, this is what I'm here for, and this is exactly what I'm going to be doing in the for the foreseeable future. Which, you know what? I look forward to it. I will be the real life Martin Brundle. I will, go from the cockpit of the race car into the comms box. And I think it's fair to say, in terms of more recent times, I am much better as a commentator than I am an actual driver. But that might not be too difficult to have to try and beat. Anyways. Obviously, those who have your points, I am expecting facts. It is, it would be weird for there not to be. Obviously, after the 1 week hiatus and there not being any, I expect many of you to waste your points and request a fact. And I will be doing facts about the track. So, yeah, I'm actually going to load those up now, actually. to get some ideas. Obviously, I do cheat. I am not going to say that I know a lot of these off the top of my head, let alone any as it is. Maybe one or two I might know, but that will be about it. But here we are, finally getting out into the pit lane and onto the track. Let's see what awaits the drivers, and what a surprise straight away. Ron spending his 1,500 points wanting a fact, considering that I was not going to allow it when I did it in a Legacy Division last week. It was not going to happen, but here at least I will do it for you all, so you don't need to thank me in the slightest. So, Mr. Ron, good evening to you. Firstly, let us get you a fact regarding the Circuit de Catalunya. So obviously it was built in 1991 and held its first race in that same year, so we've been here now for the best part of 34 years. 16 corners, 2 decent straights. Obviously the main straight itself is a great overtaking opportunity in towards turn 1. Obviously that'll be coming for us later on. Who's that going to be first out on track? It is a Ferrari, and it is not... It is Schumacher. It's now going to let me go on board with him finally. Right, Ron, let's get you your fact. I mean, to be honest, it's going to have to be a decent fact of that, actually, considering that... Right, here we go. Apologies, whilst I'm still trying to load this up because it is absolutely useless, my phone and this website. I mean, these aren't really facts. These are just things that people kind of know as it is anyway. I mean, it's absolute... No, none of these are actual facts. Nope, none of those are facts. They are absolutely shocking. Don't worry, Ron, you're not going to waste your 1,500 points. I will get one for you. I suppose actually what I could say is that this is the 55th edition of the Spanish Grand Prix ever since it was first held. Obviously before Catalonia we were at Jerez, which also did host 2 European Grand Prix, as well as obviously in Valencia as well in more recent times. Good evening, Ron Turf. Yes, fellow grandpa, you appreciate the history lesson. I mean, it's what I'm here for, but let's ride on board with Schumacher for EBR as he heads down towards the pit straight into turn 1 now, flicks the car in, misses the apex there on the inside there, not really the run he would have wanted, get a bit wide there through the exit of 2 as we come through turn 3, keeping it as far to the right and the inside line as we possibly can. Flicking it back to the left and downshifting into 4th gear for turn 4. Difficult with a little bit of traction here. The car can complain towards the exit of the corner. No real issues, at least for Schumacher this time around. Into turn 5, heavy braking zone into the hairpin. Second slowest corner on this circuit into turn 6 now, and this is 7 and 8. You want to avoid that sausage curb or take as minimal as possible, or else the car will get unsettled and just spin you out flat out near enough through turn 9 as we reactivate the DRS using what battery we pretty much have left into turn 10, the slowest corner on the track, about 70 miles an hour there as we keep it to the right hand side. Actually quite an acute angle there to turn it in for the next corner of turns 11 and 12. Red Bull getting completely out of the way. Around the final couple of corners now for the EVR man. What is it going to be for Schumacher, the current leader in WR Tier 2 on crossplay console? And it's an 11.4 to get us underway, which I do expect to be beaten quite quickly. It's not Mateus that's coming to the line, it's Andrea who actually goes a tenth slower than Schumacher, surprisingly. But there goes Lafiti returning once again to into TTC and goes into provisional pole with a 300 improvement compared to Schumacher. Finley is invalidated, he will not be continuing. Here comes Niall now through the penultimate corner, now flicking it into the final corners. T-Show there goes P2 just ahead of Schumacher by 1/1000. We've got no battery left, but it doesn't really matter as there goes Niall. It goes nearly a 10th clear of Lafiti and puts SCI onto provisional pole. What could Quantum do? And Quantum is actually backed out and is harvesting to potentially go again. Agonized, we've not seen him this season. I wonder if I can have any messages from him to say in terms of, oh, can we go at this time instead? That's, you know, what he is kind of renowned for, is what he does. As I said, Finley is going again. What's his crowd getting up to? He is now just starting his attempt. Not sure if he backed out or if it was a invalidation. That's F1 Snack, I want to say, that goes up into P2 there. Steve goes into P4. The amount of drivers in the .4s is absolutely ridiculous at these early stages. There goes Mateus now into P3 with a .4 of his own. So you can already tell me TTC here in the Premier tier is always renowned for its tight qualifying, and already once again we are getting that Quantum with a solid 133.6. That is awe-inspiring. We expect Quantum to go much quicker than that. I was crowding it along. He's had a bit of a wobble there in the exit of 8 and into 9 now, taking too much of the sausage curve. But we are continuing with the lap now, flicking it to the right hand side. Now going to downshift into the hairpin off turn 10, flicking the car now back over to the left hand side through 11 and into turn 12. Nicely there, the car rotating quite nicely there for the RB driver. A little bit of a wobble again on the exit though, so traction may be a small issue here for the VCAV Racing Bull, whatever you want to call it these days. It's not quite a 0.5. In fact, it's a 0.9 there from Crowd in the end. Not the best of laps from him, it has to be said. Finley actually went P11 on his attempt with his second attempt at a flying lap. Matches Andrea with a 0.597. Let's go back on board with Quantum as he now comes through the penultimate corner. The Ferrari there going into the pits, getting out of his way. Oh, that's good. That's too wide. That's too quick through the final corner. And it would have been provisional pole for Quantum if he didn't decide he wanted to make his own track up and go too far wide at the final corner. So, well, actually, just noticed BRC have got their second driver now into the lobby, and at least now we have a full grid of 20 drivers. Whitey and Dome there obviously yet to set a lap time. FRT down in P17 and P18. Excuse me, not what would have wanted. Agonize seems to be going again, 1.6 seconds up on his 14.2, so maybe it was a mistake somewhere in the first or middle sector that has cost the FRT man, but he's actually going into the box, decided he does not want to go again in these tyres, and will come in for a fresh set. Indeed, Grumpy, come on, fat man, that I guess is aimed at crowding. I don't think I need to guess at that, but that's, I guess, the inspiration that he needs to get himself further up the field, but we'll have to wait and see as to what Crowding can do here for us tonight, the host of this lobby. Drivers already coming out for their second attempts, the least of Callum, Schumacher and Lafiti. Schumacher is the lead car. We were on board with him last time, so in fact we'll go on board with Lafiti this time, go on board with somebody else at least. But look at that, how tight that is. From third down to 8th is, what's that? That's 64 thousandths. That is insanely, that is not even a word, extremely tight. And again, as I reiterate, that is what we expect here at TTC. But here comes Lafiti now into turn 1, going as far to the left as he possibly can, opening up the corner through turn 1 and in through turn 2 now. Much better line compared to how we saw with Schumacher on his initial opening banker lap, keeping the car as far to the right hand side and the inside as possible. And we are over 3/4 of a tenth up through that first sector on our previous attempt as we flick the car right now into turn 5. Nicely done there from the VNT driver Lafiti, who has, well, those who remember back in round 1 in Silverstone, he took pole position on the first round of the season, but a very awful, don't think VNT will, don't mind me saying this, but it was an awful strategy that cost him the race. I mean, he dropped to P8 and he recovered only, I think, 1 position in the end with that offset strategy of going hard to medium, and it cost them big style and potentially could cost them at the end of the season to SCI. Obviously, we still have a long way to go. We have 10 rounds, including tonight, still to go. But what can Lafiti do now as we round the final corner, get back onto the power, use and deplete what battery we have left, and it is pole position for Lafiti. It's a 0.245, goes just over a 10th clear of Nilo, who is about to, I believe, start his latest attempt, and indeed he is. Lafiti's teammate there, Sipala, down in P14, just coming out of the pits there. Sipala got a lot of work to do, but we do still have about 12 minutes left. Oh, is it 12 minutes? No, it's not even 12 minutes actually. It's less than 10 minutes to go in this qualifying session. Schumacher did not improve. He went back into the box. Callum does improve, but only up to P14 with a 0.754. So expect bigger and better things from Callum. His teammate, though, is now starting a lap time. I'm just going to call him L3 because I have no idea what that is actually meant to say. Callum, they're getting completely out of the way, cutting across turn 2 and taking the escape road as we go through turn 3 now. Nice bit of lag there, whether that's on my side or from L3's himself. That is absolutely inspirational. Or can we just blame Crowding's internet? Or blame all 3 of the above? Yeah, well, we'll go with Leo. I suppose we'll go with Leo, actually, Peter. That's a fair point, actually. We'll go with Leo. As Leo now comes through the chicane of 7 and 8, up the hill now into turn 9, taking it flat out there. Should be flat out for everybody here in this qualifying session. The Hasta just about getting out of the way as he brings the car over to the right-hand side. But only 800s up, though, at the moment. And that is not enough for us to improve on our current P13 as we come in through turn 12 now, 2 corners to go, flat out through the penultimate corner. The car complaining though on exit there in the Williams. Leo struggling there on the exit of turn 12 as here we go now through the final corner, and we invalidate it. That and actually would have been a 10th.5 improvement, which would have put us into P10. But never mind, he will go again, get back into the pits and see what he can do. Sapala there just start in the middle sector. We've got Bob Craning, who's down in P16. We're 2/10 up at the moment. I know there are cars further up the grid, but we'll stick on board with Craning. See if he can demolish the lap time that he's currently set at the moment. Paulie Massey there goes into P2 for BRC. Paulie Massey's had a good qualified pretty much this entire season, and bar one round, which I think might have been Jeddah. But here comes Craning through the final corner to the start finish line now. We only go P14. It's over a quarter of a second of improvement, but we're only into the .6s, and you're going to have to be in the .4s if you want to get yourself into the top 10. So more time needs to be found. That is Whitey now, his teammate, going into P10 now at least. His teammate flying the flag at the moment. That's Finley now coming to the start finish line. Where does he go? It's provisional pole, and by some margin as well. 0.118, over a 10th.25 clear of Lafitte now, who drops to P2. Nilo goes into the box. That, I think, will now be Quantum, or is it Agonize coming to the line? It is indeed Quantum. And Quantum, in fact, is going again. Or is he just starting? I'm not too sure, actually. In fact, he's going again, is Quantum. So we'll keep an eye on him as he goes to complete his lap dome on an outlap himself. Let's see if there is anybody else who's on a lap. Andrea is on a lap. We are a quarter of a second up, so on course for a low 0.3 potentially, which would put us into the top 6 and split in the 2 IRTs. Where does the McLaren driver go? It's even better, and he goes just behind his teammate there into P3. Immediately, though, beaten by F1 Stacker, goes into P2, and you know what, TF10 finally might have a decent qualifying here. I might have jinxed that. Let's hope that's not the case. Evening, Smeg, how are you doing, buddy? Hopefully you're doing well. I'm just going to see how long I have to give it before you give me some stick. Probably not too long, actually, if I'm brutally honest. Sapala there goes into P10. Tisho is not on a lap. Schumacher is on a lap. He's already on his 3rd attempt, I believe, actually, already, is the Ferrari man, with less than 6 minutes to go left in qualifying. What is Schumacher going to set us? We've got no battery to go to the start finish line, but it's Schumacher who now takes pole away from Finley, and the WRT2 championship leader takes provisional pole away with 11.1. Can we get into the 10s? That is the question. That might be a stretch too far. Where does his teammate go? Misha, or is Misha just starting? Like, the answer is Misha did not even improve. It's still in the 0.6s, half a second off his teammate. So one EV driver up at the front, the other languishing towards the back with a lot of work to do. Quantum, though, only into P12. I've missed that, and it might be a 0.3, but it's only P12. Quantum has a lot of work to do if he's going to improve. Everybody now going back into the pits. Agonized actually come out on track. We have 5 minutes to go. So Agonized, I think, is going to go out early, and that will be him done. Same with Nilo as well, who is already out on track. He's not going to have enough time to do a lap, go back in, and come back out again unless he invalidates. So keep an eye on that one between those two and see what they do. I do expect everybody else who has finished their lap to get back in and then wait until the last final 3 minutes. But let's go on board with the current championship leaders. That is SCI and Nilo, who does start his latest attempt. Using that battery. 209 miles an hour we reach there as we break in towards turn 1, flicking the car in 4th gear, short shift slightly into 5th to get the, I'm not even going to say rotation, actually, just to make sure we don't spin. Through turn 3 now, flat out there, like I said, in qualifying. As we now move it to the left, and we are slightly up at our time through the first sector, and he wasn't happy with something there. Either he misjudged the entry point into turn 4 and was not happy, so now has backed out. So let's go on board with Agonized, who's done an outlap and is now coming back in, probably realising he's not going to have enough time to do 2 attempts. But that was an anticlimax, Agonized. And for that, I'm going to make you wait an extra minute when we come to the end and when we go into the race, because I said so. Look how close that is here. top 10, what are we separated by? Just over a quarter of a second there. And in fact, the top 13 separated by just over 0.3 of a second. So it's extremely close for the top 13. Bit of a gap there from P14 downwards. I do expect, though, some of these drivers to considerably improve on their lap times, because it's what you expect. Nilo, I believe, is going again, and indeed he is. So let's go back on board with the Mercedes driver. His teammate Finley up on the front row at the moment in P2. Nilo will want to join him towards the front. He is currently in second place in WR Tier 2 at the moment, trying to close in on Schumacher for the title with 2 rounds to go, but let's see what he can do here. Through turn 3, go back in towards the left hand side through turn 4, and look, that's slightly better than what we were last time around through the first sector, and this time we are going to continue with the lap. So let's go in towards turn 5. A little bit of a lock up there. I think by the looks of it, the car did not want to rotate and turn in. Might have lost a little bit of time there. The Mercedes driver was keeping it in 6th gear, now downshift into 4th through the chicane here of 7 and 8. We climb the hill into turn 9, flat out there, 155 miles an hour, back on the power, well, back onto the flat surface. How are we through the middle sector? We're a 10th up at the moment, but he'll want to find even more time. Yes, reach out Ron. I'm guessing Ron is not there, Smeggy. I'm afraid he does not want to talk to you, and that is Nilo turning in too early slightly there, and the car complaining, and that unfortunately, as he beached that car, well, I think he had no choice there. He'd actually beached the car and was not going anywhere. So that is Nilo's qualifying session done with, and it will be P10 at best. All down to Finley now, and to see what he can do. Everybody's on outlaps apart from Laffiti, who is in P6 at the moment, the highest VNT driver. VNT will want to try and capitalise now on this. After gaining back some points last week in Singapore, we'll want to do the same again through the first sector. We have 7,000 down, so pretty much matching what we had done. So let's see if he can find time, and he's backed out as well. Not happy. There's a Ferrari though coming in close in. Is that Ferrari on a lap? The answer is no. Both Ferraris are actually on outlap, so no such issues there. Yep, Smeg, maybe we should. Maybe we should indeed, as we'll find. Who should we go on board with? Let's stick a board with Paulie Massey, actually. Let's see what the BRC driver can do, who has been a qualifying merchant for BRC, as I've said, for the races that he has done bar 1 at the moment. As we come into the chicane of 7 and 8, using that sausage curve to our advantage on the outside to straighten the car up through turn 9 there, and back onto the power with the battery straight away. We've got more battery compared to what others have had, so Polymassey's saving a little bit in reserve, and we are now 300s up through the middle sector. Let's see if he can find more time in this final set. He's going to have to find a 10th and a half though, or just over a 10th of a second, if we want to challenge in that top 5. As we flick the car through the penultimate corner, one final corner left to go for the BRC driver, and where are we going to put ourselves? The answer is it's P6 for Polymassey. A tiny little bit of improvement there again in the final sector, a decent lap there, and it's P6 overall. How's Quantum getting on? Quantum actually is in P7, and he is actually finished. Agonised, where is he going? He's actually just starting it. No, he's invalidated, so Agonised down in P15 for FRT. That's not what they would have wanted. Finley finishes his lap time, does not improve. How's Snack getting on? He is actually down at the end of his middle sector. Is that Cebu's finish? Cebu has actually finished, so he's not improving either. Let's stick on board with F1 Snack for TF10, who have had a terrible season so far, languishing down in P9 in the standings. 2 more corners to go though for the Alpine man. Keeps it in overtake, actually. That's very brave there from the TF10 man. And where's it going to be? We don't improve. 400s down. There's a Red Bull now cutting behind. That's Sapala, who gets himself at least up into P5. Improves on his final attempt. So Schumacher is still on pole. And Schumacher improves now into the 11 flats there. Great effort there from Schumacher. Let's go on board with Laffiti now. We are improving through the first 2 sectors. One final corner to go. Can we get amongst the top? Well, look at that. How close that is. Can we get towards the front? It's only P9 for Laffiti. Did not improve that final sector. Matches Polymassey's lap time. T-Show has backed out. He is finished. How's Dome getting on? Dome is actually done as well. He's invalidated. Seba, I believe, is done. Is Mateus on lap? The answer is no. I believe that is qualifying over and done with. And it is Schumacher who takes pole position for EVE with a brilliant lap of a 111 flat. 300s clear of Finley in the end, who didn't improve, but look how tight that is. Just well, it's under a tenth of a second separating the top 6, and the top 11 is 0.132. That is so tight. That is so close. 1/10 of a second makes a big difference, but that is the difference between pole and P11. But it is, like I said, Schumacher taking pole, and look how many different teams we've got there. 6 different teams in the top 6 before we get to Andrea in P7 for TRT. Again, the field, well, not the field split, but the different variety of teams that we have, and it just shows the amount of teams have got this one lap pace. But it all comes down to the race as what people can do. Paulie Massey and Agonize deciding that they do not want to retire and are going to keep us waiting for these final 50 seconds here of qualifying for no apparent reason. Now, I don't think I actually saw anybody get any grid penalties, so we should be okay. And indeed, we do not. So there we go. That is qualifying for the Spanish Grand Prix over and done with. It is Schumacher on pole from Findlay and Matesa is your top 3. Then you've got Snack, Sepala, Sieb, Andrea, Paulie Massey, Lafitte, and Quantum. Finn it rounds out the top 10. Then we have T-Show, Pepine, Nilo, Leo, Misha, Crowding, Whitey, Agonized Dome, and Callum is your grid for the 20 drivers here tonight. So I've told the drivers to go at 29 minutes past. Gives them just over 2 minutes, which should be plenty of time for them to do what they need to do. But let's see what sort of conditions we're expecting here for the race. And it looks like it's the same as to what it was in qualifying. Bone dry, blue skies. But we don't know if that could change for the race. We will have to wait and see. 32 of you watching in the chat as I get an ad. That is absolutely lovely. But good evening to everybody who is watching. Obviously, like Smeggy, Dams, Troy, Ron, I think is... Oh, no, Ron is here. He's not gone for a tea break or a little nap, being as old as he is. I say that, Ron. I don't know if you're actually older than me or younger than me. If you are younger than me, I take that back. But anyway, as we wait for the drivers to decide what we're going to do and ready up, do we go for a sneak little peek at the race director? No, I think we shall wait. We don't want to give people's strategy away. That would be cruel. That would be unfair. As I might just take a little 10-20 second break of my own, just so I can actually have a little break before this, before the Grand Prix gets underway. AOT going Inters. That would be an interesting one, Grumpy. I mean, try it. I mean, I dare you, do it, but I don't think you're going to gain anything from it. Unless you want to do it and cause a safety car, but I'm not encouraging that, not one bit. You never know. Crowding might actually be quicker on intermediates than on the mediums or hards, which is something we're going to have to keep an eye on here. Obviously, tyre wear around here is something else that they can easily get destroyed. And do we want a safety car, Grumpy? Well, I mean, it'd be something. It might bring us something, but I'm not purposely asking for one. Let's not cause death, especially to other drivers who have no idea that that is going to be happening. Let me know what lap. How about in the final 6 laps? That would spice it up for the end of the race, wouldn't it? You know, it's basically a sprint shootout to the end. Redeemed ASMR Tom. I mean, I'm not going to do that. That is certainly not happening. This is a fact channel and a fact channel only. You're not going to get any ASMR from me. Maybe if Joseph was here, you could do, but unfortunately, like I said, Joseph is not here. So you're just going to have to wait for that. But here we go, onto the grid. The 5 red lights are here for the Spanish Grand Prix, and we're not waiting very long at all. It is lights out and away we go. It's a decent start there from Schumacher. One of the FRTs, that is Quantum, was sleeping there on the start. Schumacher goes to the inside line to defend from Finley, goes back to the racing line just about there and defends his lead into turn 1. Finley there in P2 from Mateus, Snack and Sapala, as we've got a spinner in the background, and that is Agonize, who's towards the back of the field as it was anyway, but he's gone for a spin as Mateus now trying to get down the inside there of Finley in towards turn 4, and he gets the move done there. Great move there from the TRT driver as we're heading towards turn 5, and Finley then dropping a position. Sipala's now made his way up into P4. That is Andrea battling away with Lafiti. Lafiti trying to get ahead of the second TRT driver. Nothing happening. And here comes Tisha now trying to be opportunistic down the inside there. Turns out that it's a hassle. So Polly Massey going very wide, and Pepine taking full advantage. And indeed, Tisha does not get the move done there. But here comes Nilo now. He's going to take advantage of these two. He goes from one side to the other. Are we going to get a double overtake done here from the Mercedes driver? He's down the inside of the Red Bull. That is a great opportunistic move there from the SCI man, taking advantage of both of them running wide and losing speed, going to the outside to the inside in between the two of them. That was absolutely brilliant. Yes, Adam, I will bring the tyres up if you just give me a second. As we finally sort of settle down, hopefully going towards the start-finish straight. So 17 drivers on the mediums, the 3 towards the back of Misha, Crowding and Leo, going for the hard tyres, going for something different, hoping for a safety car. Maybe that's where Grumpy has gone for that, to try and help his driver go propel himself further up the field. But it's Schumacher who still leads the way with a 7/10 gap over Mateus there in P2, who got the move done on Finley on lap 1 into turn 4. His teammate now, Andrea, getting very close to the back of F1 Snack, who's dropped a few places off the start of this and might lose out here again. He's gone wide through turn 4. Andrea's going to be on the outside into turn 5. He's going to late brake and try and hang around the outside, maybe try and get some form of a switchback, but no, the Alpine there just about defending enough there to just maintain that P6 for the time being. That is, don't get in ahead of Misha, so the hard tyre runners are just going backwards here at the start of this race. We'll have a quick look at the winners and the losers from the start. So Callum's up 6 places. It's a good start for him. His teammate has dropped 4 places though, as has Polly Massey, and Quantum himself losing 3 places by sleeping at the start there. So not the best, obviously, for FRT, who are now languishing down in P13 and P20. Current 3rd place team in the standings. And IRT will want to capitalise with their drivers who are in P5 and P11 respectively at the moment. Out in front, Schumacher still leads the way from Mateus and Finley, who sets the fastest lap of the race with a 1:14.8. Everyone is still within the DRS trade at the moment, and I do expect that until we get to the pit stops. It might slow down. It might be a, everyone might calm down now after these first few laps. Obviously, we know what this game is like, and with the slipstream and this, that, and the other, and blah, blah, blah. But, yeah, might get into a little bit of rhythm now. I say that, though, as Whitey there towards the back of the field with Leo, who I think went wide through turn 2. And Leo there on the inside into turn 4. He's trying to have the inside line. He's got the racing line over the Williams there. And Leo just did not quite have the grip on those hard tyres for the moment. And Whitey does indeed get that place. But Leo trying to send it back down the inside, trying to catch the Racing Bull man off what? What's the word I'm actually trying to think of? Trying to put him off slightly, trying to catch him off guard. That's what I'm trying to think of. But no, that is not the case. No, it's not Aiden in commentary. This is the Premier Tier. You've got Bobberts. So whether you call that an upgrade or not, that's entirely up to you. What is an upgrade is Andrea getting into P6 and Nilo potentially into P7. We're side by side though with F1 Stack as he come through the penultimate corner, but round the outside goes the Mercedes driver with his second great overtake of this race already, and Snack is going backwards. Here comes Lafiti now with the Red Bull. We've got DRS, we've got the slipstream. Mateus takes the lead from Schumacher. We're sticking on board though with Lafiti as we go into turn 1. We outbrake the Alpine man there, and we get to the inside line and maintain. Take that position. But here comes Snack now, back on the inside as we come through turn 3 with a little bit of a switchback. And fair play to Snack. He gets that position back and gets himself at least back into PM. And what's been a terrible start though for the Alpine man. Spain fact. Yes, okay, Adam, you will get your Spain fact. I'm not just going to do Catalonia because that was so difficult to try and find one. You will get a Spain fact. So let us get that for you. So here is your fact here, Adam, for Spain. Spain is home to the world's oldest continuously operating restaurant, which is located in Madrid. And the name of that is called the Sobrino de Botín in Madrid. So it's in Madrid, not in Madrid, but either way. And that's Whitey. I've just noticed as I'm busy looking at that. Whitey has gone for a spin through the chicane of 7 and 8, and we are now 18 seconds off the pack in front. So unfortunately, for one AERT driver, that could be their race over and done with. Where has comms gone? I am right here. Smeg, I am. You made me have to check there to make sure that everything was there, but I'm right here. If you can't hear me, well, I'm guessing Adam can hear me because he heard my fact. So I guess that's just a you issue. We'll get back to the racing now at least. So Mateus now leads the way from Schumacher after getting that move done on the previous lap. Finley still in P3 from Sapala, and then Seeb in P5, and Whitey has decided to call it a day. Oh. Hang on. Right, okay, hopefully that might have sorted it. I've just turned it off and on again. Can you hear me now, or do we still have an issue? Pranked you. I might send that in actually, you know, Smeg, for being absolutely horrible to an old man, taking advantage of an old man there. That's not very nice, as Leo picks up a time penalty. And the first one of this race. Yeah, still don't understand Whitey's... I mean, yeah, I get it, he had an incident and he's so far off the train. But anything can happen. A safety car could come out, and, you know, we were talking about that earlier on. So yeah, a little bit of a loss there as his car goes to the right hand side and gets out of the way of everybody. Yes, okay, Smeg, we will go on board with Janol. Currently in P7 after having a poor qualifying, has managed to get himself at least up into the top 7 now, getting ahead of the likes of Laffiti, T-Show and Snack. Next target is Andrea, who in turn is trying to close down onto Seed. The 19 remaining drivers are all still within this DRS train, with Agonized languishing at the back. FRT still down in P13 and P19, struggling at the moment, so they've got a lot of work to do as Nilo gets very close there to the back of Andrea. We had a much better run through the hairpin there. We're going to try a sneaky look through the right hand, and the answer is no, we're staying behind, but we do have a full battery to disperse here as we come down through the final couple of corners and onto the start finish straight. Mateus now stretching that lead up to 8.5 tenths there to Schumacher, but Schumacher's going to have the DRS, so he's going to just close that back up and there'll be no such issues. I mean, look at that, from 8.5 tenths we've reduced the gap down to 3 tenths as we get into the braking zone. Janol not really close enough to get a move done on Andrea there, and we stick in behind. Agonize actually nearly dropping out of the DRS from Leo, so Agonize seems to be struggling quite substantially at the moment. Is there any damage on that kick Sauber? Doesn't look like there is. We just seems to not really have the pace at the moment. Now the question is, when is it going to be the crossover point for the likes of Misha, Crowding and Leo? Probably in the next lap or so. These medium tyres do not last at all round here, and the wear is extremely high. We could see punctures here tonight for anybody who pits too early. I mean, I had to do a 2-stop in my league race when I did this because my tyre wear was absolutely appalling. Especially for the likes of these pad runners, especially for the likes of Quantum being a pad driver, could suffer with tyre wear. But at least he's still within DRS train. T-Show just about sticking in the DRS actually. Closed in 3 tenths on Laffiti there, who I believe made a mistake. Going back on board with Janol though now, but we're half a second behind Andrea. Nothing really happening at the moment. Schumacher's 2 tenths closer to Mateus than he was last time around. Are we going to go for a move down into turn 1 with the added DRS? And well, no, we go back into none, and we are not interested in making the move. We're just going to save our battery and just follow the car in front like it's obviously just one massive train. But now look what we have. We have a Red Bull of Laffiti, who has dropped out of the DRS and does not really have the battery to use at this point. So this is all. Well, I say that he's now just got it back to under a second again, just showing the slight little bit cleaner makes a big difference. And yep, I've just eaten my words. We've gained 4 tenths through literally a couple of corners. So yeah, once again, I'm talking absolute nonsense. Lap 8 though of this Grand Prix. what was a chaotic start has settled down now, and as we await for the medium tyre runners to make their first pit stop. But it's a case of what lap do they go? I mean, you're going to be looking probably in all the regions of lap 10 to 13, depending on how long you can make these medium tyres last, and then not risk a puncture on the hard tyres later on, which are the much better race tyre. Andrea coming through the final sector, sticking to the back of C, but not really close enough to make any form of impression. That is Whitey now leaving the session after he's had enough of at least watching. Let's come down the pit straight once again, and once again Schumacher getting close to the back of the McLaren of Mateus, but once again not interested in making a move. We made a mistake there through though, through turns 1 and 2. Finley now going to get very close to the back of the Ferrari. Whitey's upshift broke. That would explain it as to why he had to retire, and maybe that's what caused him to spin as well. That's unfortunate there for, obviously a mechanical issue that's out of his control. I suppose you could say it's kind of like real life, but it's not what you should expect from a game. Well, I say that. It is what we expect this game. That is a mistake there by Sapala, who I think just lost traction on the exit at turn 5. Thankfully, we are still within the 1 second, and Steve was not close enough to take advantage to make a move there for 4th place. Excuse me. So yeah, everyone's still following one another in this 19-car train. Just about, with the likes though of Laffiti and Agnes getting teetering on the edge of losing DRS. Laffiti seems to be struggling ever so slightly, and I think some of that is down to the fact he does not quite have the battery compared to those around him. I mean, T-Show there has got nearly a full battery in comparison to the Red Bull there, but there goes Laffiti using that battery now to close back in, and he should be absolutely fine, at least on this occasion. F1 Snack still there in PA, nothing happening. Janel getting close to the back of Andrea, but not close enough to go for the move. And it's all going to be about strategy, as it generally is, and hopefully this race might kickstart into life as we get towards the latter stages of this 33-lap Grand Prix. No real issues really at the moment for anybody. Everyone just essentially following one another. Everyone within 3 to 7 or 8 tenths of each other. It is definitely a slow burner, this one. It is a slow burner, but either way. Second Bobby Janel as we come through turn 9 with the DRS now in towards the braking zone of turn 10. And once again, nobody really close enough. Let's see how the biggest mover of the field so far, Callum, is getting along, sticking to the back of Quantum there in P13. He's got Dome there behind him. Still unsure as to when these hard tyre runners are going to start to make a move. You'd have thought by now that these hard tyres would be better than the medium, so I thought Misha might be making some form of attempt on the back of Dome, but doesn't really seem to have the pace at the moment. Nobody pitting on the end of lap 10, and is going to go again, at least around one more lap, before we potentially see the first pit stops. That is Crading getting out of the slipstream to try and cool his engine down as much as he can. Laffiti once again teetering on the edge of losing that DRS, but because having that slight little bit of clean air, he's able to get back into it again with no real issues. So that might come back to bite him though later on, especially with the fact that he does not have the battery. But we'll have to keep an eye on that and see how he goes. 35 of you watching on the stream, thank you all very much for being here. Try and get more people in if we can. Obviously it'd be great to see, the more the merrier. Who doesn't want to come in and listen to me? Absolutely nobody does. Agonized has made a mistake somewhere and is now 2 seconds off the back of the train. Not too sure what's happened to him. I think he's started to struggle with his tyre wear, and that kicks Sauber, I think, will probably come into the box to try and do some form of an undercut. Laffiti once again losing or going over to 1 second. Can he stick within the DRS this time around though? Because if he doesn't get that within the detection plate, which is on the exit of the penultimate corner and before the final corner, he's not going to have it, but instead we're going into the box, as is F1 Snack. So the undercut is now going to be triggered by these two, and I expect Agonized to come in as well. In fact, he does not. I'm talking absolute rubbish. But here we go with the first pit stoppers at the end of lap 11, and that now does break the train up between Nilo and T-Show to over 2 seconds between P7 and P8. So let's see what these strategies for TF10 and for VNT are got. How would they'll benefit them in the short term, but how is it going to be in the long term? So let's see who pits at the end of this lap. Janel trying to close it on the back of Andrea, who in turn is doing the same on C, but nobody again really interested in making a move. They're just hanging Hanging back for now. Give it 15, 20 laps, and we might see swords being drawn, as it were, and the fighting started. And by the way, Grumpy, I know you said about causing a safety car. I guess Whitey wasn't quite successful with that then, and even if it wasn't intentional, needs to try harder. T-Show's pace is quite good, you know, considering he did not have the DRS. The fact he's closing 0.8 of a second to try and close back in on the top 7 is a very good effort. Anybody in this top 7 making a pit stop? The answer is yes, but it's only one, and it's IRT Seeb going for the undercut, as is T-Show, as is Polly Massey. So, but quite a few drivers coming into this lap. They've seen the undercut attempt. Oh, as Polly Massey speeds into the pit lane. And not for the first time we've seen that from BRC this season, and we've come across once again. I think it was at Spa that might have happened. And in fact, it's a double stack. Who's the BRC engineer here decided to pit both drivers? TTC, you have sold out. I get more toothbrush ads than racing. I mean, Troy, unfortunately, I have absolutely no control over that. That's all down to the owners and what they put on here. So please put any inquiries to JT and Andrea, who will take it on board, will probably not listen because they want to get all the pennies that they can. Mateus pushing on this lap. He's using that battery so that kind of must mean that he's wanting to make a pit stop. His teammate, though, has lost the DRS off the back of Sapala. Hopefully he might, well, for his sake, might get that back through these final few corners. So Seeb is the net race leader in this case. He's the first driver to have pitted onto the hard tyres, who, well, is ahead of everybody else. Their Snack actually did not get the move done at all and wasn't actually near him in the end. But the gaps are starting to appear. T-Show has managed to overcut Lafitte somehow. Lafitte must have had a very poor outlap and did not have the battery. And in fact, to be fair, T-Show's in-lap was absolutely fantastic. So that would also explain that. But here we are again with the next 5 drivers making their pit stops. So it's Pepine, Janel, Sapala, Schumacher and Mateus. So that was the P1 and P2 going into the pits. But let's go on board with Seeb. Where's he going to come out in relation to everybody? And the answer is he has jumped Sapala. He's right behind Schumacher. His tyres are going to be up to temperature. But are we going to go for a move into turn 4? The answer is no. The dirty air there and the understeer kicking in. We're not going to have the chance to go into turn 4. But that is Seeb, who has gained there from his undercut attempt, and he's ahead of Sapala. What could potentially be a net P3. Jordan not having a single ad so far. You might have jinxed yourself there. Let's hope that's not the case. And you don't bite your words there. But what do these top few now do? Finley now leads the way. He will surely have to pit. The same with Andrea. They don't want to lose out too much on these drivers that have already made their pit stop onto these hard compound tyres. And indeed, Finley does go into the box, as does Andrea. What does Quantum do? He's got all the hard tyre runners in behind him, and Quantum does indeed pit. I'm not too sure then what Agonize is going to do. I don't think Kick Sauber can double stack, and indeed, Agonized has to stay out for one more lap, but Quantum becomes the second victim to speed into the pit lane. And if RT's day wasn't already bad as it was, it's got a lot worse now, and Quantum's race is pretty much over and done with, unless there is a safety car and he might be able to try and recuperate some of those positions. But where do these pit stoppers come in? As that is Schumacher taking what is now the net race lead away from Mateus, and that is Mateus completely missing turn 2, and Seeb taking full advantage. I'm not sure what's happened to Mateus there. We've got a yellow flag at the background, and again, not too sure. Was that Sapala having an issue? Potentially. Again, not 100% certain as to what has happened there. Too busy watching what happened with Mateus and Seeb as Lafitte goes ahead of his teammate. What is for P12, but surely should keep Sapala in front because he's got the fresher tyres. We're side by side here for the VNT drivers. Lafitte there going ahead in the end of Sapala. That gonna happen. Where's the engineers for VNT? That's not. They shouldn't be racing each other. They need to be helping each other, but Lafitte there's got the older tyres, so not too sure on that one. Either way, Seeb is now ahead of Mateus. The hard tyres those that started in the hard tyres are still out on track. Agonize now finally comes into the box. His tyres have absolutely given up the ghost, and doesn't speed into the pit lane like his teammate does at least, and will continue on. Schumacher there setting the fastest lap of the race with a 1:14 flat. So Schumacher is going to be your net race leader from Sieb, who will now be up into P2 for IRT. So great strategy from then. You got there Matthias and Snack is your top 4. Then there's a little bit of a gap, as that is that Dome that's had an issue? That is indeed Dome who's had an issue, and he retires into the pit lane. So that's our second retirement from the race. And look at this, FRT in P17 and P18. Who had that on their bingo card today? Because I certainly didn't. I was going to mention about Finley not being within the DRS and having to close in on the drivers in front of him. He's using that battery as much as he can, but he's back within the DRS, and we have this train once again. Oh, well, I say that, he's now just lost it, so maybe... Does Nilo need it? Perhaps you should let Nilo go. He's got a lot more battery, so maybe there could be a swap here for SCI, at least to try and close in on what is the net top 4. The top 3 still currently in this race. Misha, Crowding and Leo will be pitted in the next sort of 3 to 5 laps, and we'll see where they come out and in relation to what they can then do on their medium tyres. Yeah, it makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah, 3 lap fresher tyres and getting dropped, but I think part of that is also down to the DRS aspect. But here comes Janel now, we're going to do a swap here for SCI, so they're not going to lose out as much, I suppose you could say, at least. But there's a lot of work here to be done for them, but it's a case of what Schumacher's pace is. If Schumacher's pace is good enough, these 4 might be able to stay ahead of the next train. But that gap now already down to 1.2 seconds, now 1.1 seconds. Nilo, or Janel should say, pushing like mad to get him and his team, and subsequently the rest of the drivers in this DRS train, back with what are the top 4 of this race. And there we go. There's the answer. We're now within under a second again, and we've got the DRS. So good work there by SCI to get them back within that, and Finley might be able to now start to recharge his battery, and that 8.5 tenths, yeah, that's solid enough, and so long as Janel does not make a mistake, then we should, well, SCI at least should be good to continue. 7 seconds now, the gap between the top 3 and Schumacher and P4. I don't think they're going to catch these top 3 by the time they make a pit stop, but we'll keep an eye out nonetheless as we start lap 18 of 33, over half race distance. But Sieb now has decided he wants to lead this train, he wants the clean air, and there we go. So IRT Sieb takes the net race lead. It's P4, as I've just realised it's kicked me out the party. Thank goodness I saw that. Yes, thank you, Adam. I didn't actually look at the chat there. I just saw the thing in the bottom left-hand corner and realised that. So sorry if I put anybody off there in the race. But we're now back. But that's what happens when you're doing this on your own. So, still got this train, boys, from P14 to P16, 13 drivers in this train, from Sieb at the front to Callum at the back, and then Quantum is 2 seconds back and trying to close in, but this has been a terrible race for FRT. One driver with a 10-second penalty and not in the DRS train, and the second driver not in the train at all, doesn't have a penalty, but he's pretty much the best part of nearly 10 seconds off the back of Callum there in P16, so this is a day to forget for FRT at the moment. As there goes Leon now, on the end of lap 18, going into the box. I think that's kind of a little early. I tried that, and I think I got a puncture on the start of the final lap. But again, that was me, and not Leo. So let's see if that pays off. Obviously, he's going to be nowhere near anybody. He might actually stick ahead of Agonized, actually, or at least be behind him. Might use his slipstream and DRS to try and gain a little bit of time. Just watching the mini-map in the corner, and in fact the answer is he stays ahead of him. So we're settled down once again now after the pit stops and all the shenanigans going on, so it's now a case of everyone's tyre age. So Finley, within those towards the front of this train, has the freshest tyres, and then you've got, as well as Andrea and then Quantum at the back, who's still trying to close in. He is doing ever so slowly, but not having the DRS is certainly not helping. Laffiti once again struggling to try and stick within the DRS, and I wonder if VNT should do a driver swap here. Laffiti's got the oldest tyres along with F1 Snacks. Sapala's is 2 laps fresher, And they want to close in on SCI as they did last week. But at the moment, they're going to be losing points once again, even though SCI are not scoring big points. Neither are VNT down in P10 and 11, which will be P7 and P8. But there we go. There's the swap. There's the non-multi 221, as it were, in the older Red Bull days, and that is a swap of positions between the two drivers. He just about stayed ahead of Andrea, who was getting, well, feisty into turn one. There looked like a slight look down the inside, but in the end there wasn't enough space and he stays in behind. But Sepal now will try and close back in onto T-Show in front of him. TF10 having a good day at the moment. Net P3 and P6 as it stands, so this will definitely propel them up the standings and have easily their best points score of the season. Let's go back on board with Matheus now. P5 at the moment, was our race leader for quite some time in that first stint and showed good pace. Matheus actually has showed good pace these last few races that he's been here, especially, you know, at Jeddah. No, sorry, that was Andrea at Jeddah. That showed really good pace as the two remaining leaders on the hard tyres both go into the box now. So Seb will now take the lead of this race at the start of lap 21, 13 laps to go. Has Laffiti had damage this whole race or just no race pace? He's not. It's a very good question. He's not got damage on there as Andrea tries to go around the outside of turn one there. Nothing really doing so. Unless it's like maybe light green dirt, I'm not too sure. But he's been like this for the majority of the race, so I'm not sure. It like I say, could be very light green damage that's not showing on the car, but it shows on its telemetry. But yeah, I'm not 100% certain. Oh, it has to be, considering with the pace that he's got. We know how quick Laffiti can be, but it could break. He could break up the train though, which wouldn't be a bad thing. But he's still sticking within DRS for now. He is still best about 0.6 of a second off the back of his teammate. Sorry, as I am about to yawn. Oh, that's better. Yeah, that's definitely better. T-Show then P7, his teammate now up into P4 after all the hard tyre runners have pitted. So it's a case of now what can these medium tyre runners do at the back of the field, and I'll be brutally honest, I think the answer to that, even though Leo is catching sort of the train in front, I don't think they're going to gain on that. So I think, unfortunately, for those from P15 downwards, that is going to be their race pretty much sorted and done and dusted. The offset strategy doesn't really seem to be working for them at all. And it is the top 14 as well. Although saying that, even though Quantum has that 10-second penalty, he's actually at the moment not going to lose that to Leo, who has his penalty of his own. But it will be quite tight. Excuse me, come the end of the race, Hagenized actually might steal that final point as it currently stands. Let's go right back on board with Matheus, who seems to be the driver who gets very, very close to the back of Schumacher, and is the only driver who gets within a couple of tenths at least of the car in front. T-Show now actually getting very close to the back of Finley there, as you can see the back end, and that is Pepine now down in P12, who's now picked up a penalty of his own. So the final four drivers in this train all having penalties. The top 10 do not. Obviously Polymassi and Quantum each have 10-second penalties. The rest of them are all track extensions or corner cutting penalties. As we go on board, let's go on board with the McLaren of Matheus as we just basically try and stick with the back of Schumacher as we head towards turn one. I'm about to yawn once again, as that is Finley going down the inside of his teammate, and strange one. I suppose they're doing that because Finley's got one lap fresher tyres, but we're now out with the DRS once again, and he's going to have to burn his battery. So I'm not too sure what that was all about. What that has done, I should say, is T-Show has got right onto the back of Janel there, going into turn 4, and thankfully the Alpine man decided not to go for any move and instead to stay in behind. But that could have been... Yeah, I'm not too sure what that was. I don't get that as to why Finley made the move. I understand he's got one lap fresher tyres and he has closed back in to get the DRS once again, but that was a bit of a strange one. Who's Choi? Who's engineering SCI tonight, or is there not an engineer? Okay. Should see the new rule I'm dropping in the server. Well, I'll pay attention to that later on, because yeah, that certainly was not expected. Either way, let's go back on board actually. Let's go on board with Andrea, who's trying to get ahead of that Red Bull of Laffiti in front of him. We're on the overtake, we're gaining, we're slowly gaining. We're within 2/10 of the Rebel. Are we going for a late breaking move? No, we are not close enough into turn 1. Crowding setting the fastest lap of the race there, 1:13.4, certainly much quicker than his hard tyre runners, but not closing in and enough, if I'm brutally honest. He has got ahead of Misha at least into P16. Agonized now down into P18, has been overtaken by all the medium tyre runners now, as Andrea now going to send it down the inside. Oh, there was half a gap there, and Laffiti just about closed the door there into turn 5. But again, this is showing how much quicker Andrea is compared to this Red Bull, who is struggling by no means. Can we not have a SCI rant in the chat just after what happened, you know? As I've completely just ignored and missed the fact that Finley's now picked up a time penalty. That is not what the doctor ordered, and now Finley's going to have to try and get some moves done if he wants to score these good points for SCI. So at least for VNT's sake, with one SCI driver having a penalty, that might propel them up a position. Laffiti though still struggling to try and stick within the DRS, but he is just about. He's actually gapped Andrea slightly. He might have made a mistake through the first few corners, not corners or turns, but yeah. So here comes Finley now down the inside into turn 5, and the car was so unsettled there. Snack just about defended. But this is the offset of 3-lap fresher tyres, now starting to pay dividends for him. But yeah, that was almost tears there. He needs to be calculated. He needs to not go for any rash moves. But yeah, Finley just needs to calm down. So he might be angry with the fact that he's got that penalty, but he needs to not cause any. I can't stop freaking yawning, man. Excuse me. He needs to be cool, he needs to be calculated and not take any risk, because at the end of the day, this is a 15-round season and we still have 9 races to go after this, as that is Yano making a big mistake through the final corner, getting caught on the curb there. But thankfully not losing out anything on it, well, to anything really to T-Show, at least in that particular case. Laffiti does have DRS, but we're now outside of that 1 second window, and Andrea will be pushing like crazy, but he's not got the battery to try and get a move done. Can Laffiti get back within the DRS as he has done many times before? We'll have to wait and see. As actually further behind, Pepine and Pauline Massey going side by side. Now it's Pepine for IRT getting the move done. He would have been net P11 as it is anyway, considering his penalty is 3 seconds and not 10, but at least he's now ahead on track. Back further towards the front T-Show then, P7 not really close enough to the back of Yanel there to try and get any form of move done, but yeah, again, nothing really happening at this point apart from that, apart from Pepine on Pauline Massey and SCI having their own little squabble, let's say, or interesting form of swapping positions, as that is Schumacher getting very close to the back of Sieb, who decided that he wanted to defend fresh air going into turn 1. I don't think Schumacher's interested in going for a move until maybe the final couple of laps. But Sieb still leads the way from Schumacher and Mateus. There's your top 3, Snack in P4, Finley in P5, but has that time penalty. Then you have Yanel, T-Show, Sapala, Laffiti and Andrea around at the top 10. Currently as it stands. Leo now actually less than 3 seconds off the back of the train, so he's doing a good job actually closing in, but it's going to be too little too late though, and those medium tyres by that point will be crying or be wanting to be replaced. Yeah, unfortunately you might have thought that, but yeah, even with the quicker tyre, they just don't seem to be quick enough and maybe the pace out in front with these hard tyre runners is obviously just good enough to keep them at bay. But we still have 6 laps to go on the completion of lap 27 as we start lap 28. Steve coming through the final corner, and again nothing really happening. Sapala now actually getting close to dropping out of the DRS himself. He's 1 second now off the back of T-Show, but he'll probably gain that time back up through the first few turns. Andrea now 2/10, less than 2/10 now off the back of Lafiti. Are we close up into turn 1? And once again the McLaren driver is not close enough to get a move done on that Red Bull. That Red Bull is being as stubborn as anything. There is a metaphor in there, but I'm not going to say it. But yeah, that Red Bull certainly not giving up to the McLaren of Andrea, who will be absolutely frustrated that even with these 3 lap fresher tyres he cannot get the move done. Lafiti now though having to use all that battery to try and get the DRS on his teammates, who has got a full battery, but he want to make sure his teammate, but is that a mistake? That's a mistake there from Sapala. He did not get the DRS to ensure that his teammate did, and in turn he's lost the DRS now off the top 7. Can he gain that back through this final sector? Well, he's gained 2/10 back already through 1 corner alone, and well, fair enough, he actually has done, so fair play to Sapala. But VNT playing a dangerous game here. Obviously Lafiti has got some issues, whether if it's damage or if it's something else or if he's just not got the pace, but it is going to cost them. Or certainly it's going to cost Sapala, or maybe they're just accepting the fact that they're going to be P8 and P9. As it stands, Andrea not close enough this time around to go for a move towards the front. Mateus now closing in onto the back of Schumacher, who in turn is closing in onto the back of Steve. Crowding gets the move done there, and Leo for what is P15. Crowding has 2 lap fresher tyres, so maybe there's a bit of life left in his, at least at the moment. Misha not really making any impressions, and Agonize just languishing in P18, just hoping for somebody to crash or a safety car or something, but that's not going to happen now with less than 5 laps to go. There's the finally, there is the gap. It has been broken, and Lafiti's attempts to stay in the DRS has now finally come to an end. That gap is now nearly up to 2 seconds, and well, that is the start and the sign of what's to come, I'm afraid, unfortunately. I think for Lafiti, Andrea will now, well, obviously will now know that. You can see that. He'll know, though, at least now. He's only probably going to be fighting for P9 at best, unless he's got some absolute rocket ship pace. His teammate, though, in P3 certainly does have some good pace, closing in at the back of Schumacher once again. But again, Schumacher has got that DRS on Sieb. He gets out of the slipstream to cool his engine down and stays in behind with 4 laps to go. Here comes Andrea with the slipstream, with the DRS. Lafiti's using all that he has. Here we go, we're going to the outside line. Can we get the move done to turn 1? We're going round the outside of the Red Bull there, and we've got the move done finally, about 8 laps too late. But he has got the move done. What can Pepine now do? He knows that Lafiti is struggling. Lafiti defends the inside line. Pepine's going to try and go around the outside of turn 4. We're on half a car length alongside, but not quite alongside enough. But we've got the power. We've got the traction. We've now got the inside into turn 5. And Pepine slightly later on the brakes. Lafiti now trying to hang it round the outside. But Pepine's going to be on the inside for turn 7. And he's got the move done. Lafiti now losing 2 places in the space of a few corners, and I think that that's his day pretty much over and done with. At least he doesn't have a penalty, so he can gain some of these places back. But there's definitely an issue with that Red Bull, with the amount of speed that he's losing, with the pace that he's got. It is not what he wanted. Quantum now again, we've done a Polymassi. Now that is for net position, because they both have 10-second time penalties. And look who's joined the back of this train. It's Crowding. Crowding go for a move through the penultimate corner. Normally you don't see me. Oh, there's Lafiti now into the box. He's not retiring, surely. Surely he's not retiring. Why I don't even get why he's even pitting. All these drivers have got penalties. Oh, that's contact. Well, Lafiti's gone for the box. He's gone for soft. So it could be tyre wear, but up towards the front. I'm sorry, I do apologise. I've missed Schumacher taking the lead of the race from Sieb with less than 3 laps to go, and now Mateus is going to want to try and get the move done. Snacker's now dropped out of the DRS because of the age of his tyres and the pace that he's got. He might actually get the DRS back again. The answer is yes, he does, just about. Mateus through turn 9, much better speed through the fast right-hander, but we're not close enough to make a move on the Aston as that is a swap of position that has to be done there from SCI, and Janel now getting back ahead of Finley because of his time penalty. Still a little bit of a strange one why they even swapped places in the first place, but only they will know as to why they've done that. Oh, it's Sepala now. Well, there goes the net positions he could have gained, and unfortunately that is him done and dusted with that 3-second time penalty. Sieb defending once again from Mathias. He's got so much more grip even on one lap fresher tyres. Compared to the Aston Martin, Sieb is just struggling at the moment. His tyres seem to have just gone. Schumacher starting to pull away now, and what this is doing is it's keeping Snack within the DRS. His tyres are now 20 laps old and are definitely suffering themselves. Janel now with 2 lap fresher tyres closing in on the back of that Alpine. He's got to get a move done if he wants to promote himself up into P4, but a snap like that on the exit turn 5 is not going to help. Adam Lark is saying, run Schumacher. He is running. He's got an 8-10 gap now over Sieb, and that's who he wants behind him. He doesn't want Matthias, who's got better pace. He wants Sieb in behind him, who's just slowly fading away. Janel now closing back in on Snack, but we're not close enough, and Snack's going to get the DRS potentially again. Going to the start of this final lap, Andrea 1.3 seconds off Sepala, who's going to be annoyed with this time penalty that he has got. And VNT are not going to take advantage of SCI's penalty, and are actually going to lose out big style with Lafiti having to make a pit stop through the final corner for the penultimate time as we start the final lap of the race. White flag is out. And here comes Janel now. Snack is not defending. He did not have the DRS, and that is Janel now up into P4, and at least gets SCI a few more points on the board. At least for the time being. Matthias now through turn 3 and 4. Sieb, is he going to defend? No, he doesn't need to defend. Lafiti now getting a time penalty. Again, commiserating VNT's day. Schumacher's escaped. Schumacher just needs to keep it clean, and it will be a win for him. Replicating his actual, I'm not going to say idol or hero. I mean, he could be, but this is in the dry conditions and not the wet. Matthias now through 7 and 8. He's got the run through turn 9. He's got to save that battery. Sieb is not going to have the DRS. A little bit of a wobble there from the McLaren. We've got the DRS. We're on the battery, but we're nowhere near close enough to get a move done on the Aston Martin there in front. Nothing really happening in behind. Matthias now a 10th and a half. He's so close getting that move done, but it's potentially not going to be enough unless he can get a move done through the penultimate corner, but it's not quite. Through the final corner though comes Schumacher. What a dominant display. He took pole position and he wins the Spanish Grand Prix, and it's EVE's first win of the season. Sieb gets a brilliant P2 with that undercut, and Matthias makes it 3 different teams in the top 3. He might be slightly disappointed with that, thinking that he probably had the pace to win this race. Janel finishes P4 from Snack and T-Show, and P5 and P6. TF10 with a brilliant day at the office there. Andrea P7. Finley in the end finishes P8 with his time penalty, so lost 2 places in the end. Sorry, EVR. Why did I say EVE? Do apologise. Anyway. Right, we'll go through the final results as I missed who was after Finley there. But that is Schumacher, not quite with the Grand Slam. He didn't get the fastest lap, but pole position and taking the win tonight is definitely what they wanted, and picking up their first win of the season. I'm not going to bother to watch the podium celebrations because who wants to do that? Crowd. I mean, does Crowding want to take up more space on there? He's got 3 things. Does he want all 5? That would be that would certainly be something. But here we are. Here is your final provisional results as it stands. And it is Schumacher who wins the Spanish Grand Prix. Sieb there from P6 to P2. A great result there for IRT. And Matthias in P3. From Janel in P4, then you have Snack and T-Shot for TF10 with their best result of the season by a country mile. Andrea P7, Finley P8, Sepala P9, and Pepine runs up the top 10. And that will put IRT now back into P3 in the standings. Callum P11 after starting last finishes P11. A decent recovery there from him. Then you have Crowding, Misha and Leo are your final point scorers. And you have Agonized, Paulie Massey, Quantum, Lafiti, and then Dolman Whitey did not finish the race. FRT with a very, very bad day at the office will want to forget about this race as quickly as possible. and come back stronger next week. That was something I definitely did not expect from them. But hey ho, what can you do? Um, yeah, just quickly checking, going to see what that does to other teams in the standings based off that. So Shizou Cedar Igniters will extend their lead to VNT at the top. IRT will overlap and go into P3 ahead of FRT. TRT not quite nowhere near close enough, but what this does do is Evolution Racing Team will definitely promote themselves up for, well, they'll go ahead of TRT for, actually I say that, I'm not too sure. You know, TRT did have two drivers towards the front. We'll have to wait and see when the points are updated eventually. Um, but either way, that was a fast start, slow burner, and then it got exciting and spicy towards the end. But that was the 6th round of the Premier Tier. Obviously, next week for round 7, where are we? It's a good question, actually. Where are we for round 7? Let's bring up the calendar. We are at the home of racing. We are at Silverstone for the normal circuit, but then the week after, we go back there again, but in reverse. Now that will certainly be something in a few weeks' time. But like I said, that's the 6th round of the season. 9 races still to go. Still a lot can happen between now and then. Obviously, we do have the top tier and Premier tier racing tomorrow and Friday, so join us obviously for those on tomorrow night and for Friday. But from myself, Mr. Bobbert in the box tonight, thank you all for being here. I hope you enjoyed that. We'll see you again next week. Take care, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your night and your week.